The Mongol Empire, under the leadership of Genghis Khan and his successors, rapidly expanded across Asia in the early 13th century. Genghis Khan's unification of the Mongol tribes and his subsequent campaigns established one of the largest empires in history. After Genghis Khan's death in 1227, his empire was divided among his descendants, who continued to pursue his vision of conquest. One of the most significant branches of the Mongol Empire was the Ilkhanate, established by Hulagu Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan. He was given the task of expanding Mongol control into the Middle East. His campaign was part of a broader strategy to subjugate the Islamic world and secure the Mongol Empire's southwestern frontier. The Abbasid Caliphate, established in 750 CE, was one of the most significant Islamic empires, with Baghdad as its capital. Baghdad was incredibly wealthy due to the trade routes and taxes it controlled. Baghdad quickly became a world city and the epicenter of the Islamic Golden Age. Poets, writers, scientists, philosophers, musicians, and scholars of every type thrived in the city. Baghdad was the intellectual capital of the planet. But by the 13th century, however, the Abbasid Caliphate had declined significantly. The Caliph's authority was largely ceremonial, with real power often lying in the hands of military leaders and regional governors. Caliph al-Musta'sim, who ruled at the time of the Mongol threat, was faced with a deteriorating political situation. His leadership was weak, and he struggled to muster the necessary resources and alliances to defend Baghdad. A problematic state for the Mongols was the Order of Assassins in the Elburz Mountains. This secretive Nizari Ismaili state had killed Mongol commanders during the 1240s and had allegedly dispatched 400 assassins to the Mongol capital Karakorum to kill the Khan himself. Hulegu Khan was dispatched westwards to destroy the assassins and to ensure the submission of the Abbasid caliphs. For this task, he was assigned 1/5 of the empire's manpower, a force of perhaps some 200,000 men. The force contained troops from Armenia, a 1,000-strong corps of military engineers led by Guo Khan from China, auxiliaries from all over the empire, and generals from all the branches of the Mongol imperial family. Because of the size of his force, Hulagu's progress was extremely leisurely by Mongol standards. Early the following year, the Mongols entered the assassins' heartland of Kohistan. An advanced vanguard under the general Kitbuka had taken numerous Ismaili fortresses, unsuccessfully besieged the stronghold at Gerdku, and sacked the city of Tug between 1253 and 1256. The Grand Master of the Assassins, Rukn al-Din Kurshah, attempted to stall for time, but his fortresses steadily fell to the Mongols, and he surrendered on the 19th of November. Hulagu had expected the Abbasid Caliph al-Musta'sim to provide troops for the campaign against the assassins. The Caliph initially wanted to send troops, but his ministers argued that the real purpose of the request was to empty Baghdad of potential defenders, and so he refused. Hulagu spent the summer of 1257 on the Hamadan plain. He was soon joined by Baiju, who was another Mongol commander and had been occupied with troubles to the northwest. He brought Georgian, Armenian, and Seljuk vassals to join the Mongol army. In September, Hulagu began a correspondence with al-Musta'sim. His first message demanded that the Caliph dismantle Baghdad's defenses and send his 3 principal ministers, the vizier, the commander of the soldiers, and the Dawatdar, who was responsible for tax and harvest collection, and the mustering of soldiers. Al-Musta'sim's reply to Hulagu's letter called the Mongol leader young and ignorant and presented himself as able to summon armies from all of Islam. In addition to this, Hulagu's request was denied and 3 less important officials were sent instead. All of this was accompanied with disrespectful behavior towards Hulagu's envoys. A further exchange of letters brought no progress. Losing patience, Hulagu consulted his advisors on the practicalities of attacking Baghdad. Hulagu reached the eastern suburbs of Baghdad on the 22nd of January. The Mongols then began the siege of Baghdad by constructing fortifications around the city. At this point in history, the walls of Baghdad were in disrepair and the garrison, some 50,000 men, were untrained and largely incapable. Despite these weaknesses, Hulagu meticulously planned his operations to cover all eventualities. The Mongol forces attached messages to arrows that were shot into the city. These messages contained guarantees of safety for Christians, certain Muslim figures, and those who had not fought the Mongols or who had surrendered. On the 1st of February, the Mongols attacked the southeast Ajami Tower. After some intense fighting, the first breach was made. Mongols stormed the breach, and brutal fighting took place. Despite them breaching the walls, the Mongols were pushed back and the siege continued. On the 4th of February, the Mongols managed to breach the east battlements. After intense fighting, the Mongols seized this area of the city. The Caliphate's soldiers rushed to the other side of the city and began preparing more fortifications. Sensing defeat, the Dawata attempted to escape by sailing down the Tigris, but Hulagu's preparations held and forced him back into the city with a loss of 3 ships. Caliph al-Musta'sim sent out numerous envoys during the next week, but Hulagu was determined on nothing less than unconditional surrender. Both the Dawada and the commander of Baghdad's garrison were surrendered to the Mongols during the negotiations and were put to death. On the 7th of February, a large number of unarmed soldiers and inhabitants emerged from the city, in the apparent hope that they would be spared and allowed to settle in Syria. Instead, they were divided into groups and executed. On the 10th of February, al-Musta'sim surrendered after sending out an embassy that secured guarantees of safety for his family. Al-Musta'sim left the city with 3,000 dignitaries. Hulegu asked al-Musta'sim to order the population of the city to leave the city after laying their weapons down. Those who obeyed were slaughtered. 3 days later, the sack of Baghdad began. The city had approximately 1 million residents, and the army massacred most of them. It was a horrendous act that, in one fell swoop, brought an end to the Islamic Golden Age. The sack led to the destruction of countless manuscripts and books, resulting in an immense loss of knowledge. The House of Wisdom, an iconic institution of learning, was obliterated. Scholars, scientists, and poets either perished or fled, leading to a significant intellectual vacuum in the region. Christians and merchants who traded with the Mongols were spared,